It was almost 9 when Claire Reynolds heard the front door open. The sound of keys, the familiar click of leather shoes on the hardwood floor, and a gust of cold Chicago air slicing into her living room. She didn't look up from her wine. She didn't need to. She already knew something was off. Claire was the kind of woman who noticed things. Too much, perhaps. A lawyer with a reputation for staying calm even in the most volatile corporate storms, she'd made a career out of reading silence louder than words. And tonight, the silence behind her husband's footsteps screamed. "Claire," Daniel called softly, and she finally looked up. He stood in the foyer in his charcoal coat, cheeks slightly red from the wind. But he wasn't alone. Next to him was a young woman. Brunette, barely mid-20s, dressed in a designer trench coat and heels too expensive for someone her age. Her makeup was subtle, but flawless. Her hand gripped Daniel's arm, like it was her anchor. And the curve of her stomach under the coat? Impossible to miss. Claire stood. Slowly. No panic. No raised voice. Just that sharp clarity she was feared for in courtrooms. Daniel cleared his throat, glancing nervously at the woman beside him. "This is Ashley," he said. We've been seeing each other for a while, and she's pregnant. We didn't plan for this, but it happened. And I'm going to be a father." Claire blinked once. He rushed ahead. "I'm not proud of how this all came about, but I can't live a lie anymore. Ashley and we want to be together. I owe it to the baby." Ashley smiled nervously, like she expected a slap or a scream. But Claire just turned away. She walked down the hallway and disappeared into the master bedroom. A long silence stretched behind her. Daniel shifted uncomfortably. Ashley's grip on his arm tightened. When Claire returned, she wasn't crying. She wasn't begging. She held a cream-colored envelope in one hand and a tablet in the other. "What's that?" Daniel asked, his voice cracking. She walked past him and placed the envelope gently on the coffee table. Then tapped the tablet to life. "Before we talk about anything," Claire said calmly, "there's something you need to see." Daniel hesitated. "Claire, I know this hurts, but—" "No, you don't," she interrupted, looking him dead in the eye. "You don't know anything about what hurts yet." Ashley opened her mouth to speak, but Claire cut her off with a look so cold it could stop time. Claire picked up the envelope and held it out. "Do you remember 6 months ago? The business trip to Miami, where you missed your flight and had to stay an extra 2 nights? Daniel's lips parted, but nothing came out. Claire tilted her head. "I remember. I also remember finding a napkin in your suitcase. Lipstick stain. Not my shade. That was the beginning." Ashley took a step back, her face starting to pale. Claire continued. "So, I called in a favor. A friend of mine at a private lab owed me. I gathered what I needed. Samples. Yours. Heron. From the trash after your movie nights when you said you were working late at the office." Daniel looked like he'd stopped breathing. "I had them tested. DNA markers. Genetic compatibility. And a little something extra." She reached for the envelope again and pulled out a folded set of papers. Perfectly organized. Clean. Unshakable. "Daniel, remember that fertility issue you had years ago? The one you kept private, even from your own family?" Ashley looked at him, confused. "What is she talking about?" Claire placed the report on the table and stepped back. "You're sterile, Daniel," she said softly. "You've known since 2018. You told me in confidence. You couldn't have children. We cried about it. Together. Remember?" Ashley's hand fell from his arm like it burned. "No," she whispered. "That's not true. That can't be true." Claire didn't smile. She didn't gloat. She simply stood, arms crossed, as Daniel shakily picked up the papers. "Paternity test," she said. "Conducted 2 weeks ago. The father of Ashley's baby. Isn't you? Daniel stared at the results. His face went from confused to pale to something close to horror. Ashley covered her mouth with her hand. I don't understand. Claire leaned forward, just enough to speak quietly. Oh, I think you do. Daniel was silent. The paper in his hand trembled, just slightly. Ashley hovered behind him, eyes wide, mouth parted, as if her brain hadn't quite caught up with the words Claire had spoken. For a long time, the only sound in the room was the faint hum of the refrigerator and Ashley's shallow breathing. This is a mistake, Ashley said finally, almost choking on the words. That test isn't real. It can't be. Claire didn't flinch. She just arched one perfect brow. You want the original report? I have it filed in my safe. Or, we can call the lab director right now. He'll confirm. He's the godfather of my best friend's son. Ashley blinked rapidly, her gaze snapping back to Daniel for support. But he looked frozen, like a man who'd just watched his entire life tilt off the axis. You told me, Ashley started, voice rising. You told me you were the father. You said you'd been tested. You said everything was fine. I thought I was, Daniel snapped, his voice cracking in a way Claire hadn't heard in years. That was years ago. I didn't even think. Claire's voice came again, crisp and clean like the slice of a scalpel. You didn't think because you didn't want to think. You wanted the fantasy. You wanted the story where the wife quietly faded, and the girlfriend came with a cute little bump and a fresh start. Ashley's hand was trembling now. But I didn't lie. Oh, sweetie, Claire said with mock sympathy. You definitely lied. Maybe not about the baby, but about whose it was. Absolutely. Ashley's face turned a deep red, her eyes darting between the floor and Daniel, like a trapped animal looking for an exit. Then she turned on him, her voice venomous. You said it was okay. You said you'd take care of everything, that you'd leave her, that the baby was yours. I thought it was, Daniel shouted, then collapsed onto the couch, burying his head in his hands. Claire watched him for a moment, and for the first time that night, something flickered in her eyes. Not pity, not sadness. Something closer to disbelief that she'd once loved this man. Claire, please, he said into his palms. Don't do this. Don't tear me apart right now. I was trying to do the right thing. The right thing? Claire snapped, her voice like glass. The right thing would have been talking to me before dragging your pregnant mistress into my home. Ashley stepped back toward the door. I need to go, she muttered, almost to herself. This isn't what I thought. I have to think. Daniel didn't stop her. Claire certainly didn't. The door opened. The door closed. And then, for a long moment, nothing. Just the dull hum of regret bouncing off the walls. Claire turned slowly toward Daniel. Her heels clicked on the hardwood with each step. You know, she said quietly, I could have handled the truth. If you had told me about her before all this, if you'd come clean, said you were unhappy, I might have even respected you for it. Daniel lifted his head, eyes rimmed red. Claire. But instead, she continued, you let me sit across from you every night, smile, pour your wine, laugh at your empty stories, while you built a new life behind my back, with a baby that wasn't even yours. I didn't know, he pleaded. I thought. I don't care what you thought, Claire said, cutting him off. Because now, I'm going to show you what I thought. She walked over to the sideboard and pulled open the lower drawer. Out came a black leather folder, sleek, professional, marked only with a single silver clasp. Daniel's eyes narrowed. What's that? Claire placed it on the coffee table beside the DNA test, opened it, and turned the first page to face him. It was a legal contract. The cover page read, Post-nuptial agreement. Claire and Daniel Reynolds. Daniel blinked. Wait. That's signed 3 years ago. Claire said evenly. Right after we expanded the practice and bought the Lake Forest house. You insisted we draw something up. Just in case. Remember. Daniel stared at the page like it was written in flames. Claire flipped to the highlighted section and tapped the line with her manicured nail. Infidelity clause. In the event of marital betrayal, the guilty party forfeits 65% of joint business holdings, primary property ownership, and residual financial rights. Claire smiled politely. I had it amended last year. With your signature. You didn't read the fine print. You never do. Daniel's face drained of color. You can't be serious. Oh, but I am, she said, stepping back. And tomorrow morning, my attorney will be filing for divorce. This, she gestured around the room. All of it? It'll be mine. Because, unlike you, Daniel, I don't make moves I can't back up. Daniel just sat there. No fight. No anger. No denial. Just a man watching his empire crumble with every word his wife spoke. Claire stood tall in front of him, the post-nuptial agreement now open across the coffee table like a loaded weapon. The highlighted clause gleamed under the recessed lighting. Cold. Final. Inevitable. You amended this? He asked, his voice a whisper. Claire nodded slowly. I did. Right after I noticed your business trips started getting longer, and your lies got sloppier. Daniel blinked, his lips parted. But I didn't even... You signed it, Claire interrupted. Page 7. Your signature. Dated June 14th. You were too busy checking emails to notice you were giving me your kingdom. She walked toward the fireplace and picked up the brass poker. Not to threaten, just to fiddle with the embers. It gave her something to do while he unraveled. Daniel stood, pacing now, eyes wild. Claire, this isn't fair. You can't just take everything. No, Daniel, she replied without turning. You took everything. Our trust. Our vow. My time. My dignity. I'm just collecting what's left. But the firm, our clients, will be notified of a partner restructure. I've already spoken with legal. You'll keep your name on the door until the transfer's complete. Then I'll buy you out. Clean cut. No drama. He stared at her. She finally turned. You think I didn't see this coming? She said, voice low but sharp. I watched the way you stopped touching me. The way you avoided eye contact during dinner. How you started showering before you got home, instead of after. All signs. Daniel shook his head, as if physically trying to reject reality. But Ashley, she said the baby was mine. She swore. She wanted a future secured, Claire snapped. And she saw a man dumb enough to hand it over. He stopped, swallowed. I loved you. Claire almost laughed. Not cruelly, more like a reflex. A dry, disbelieving chuckle from a woman too tired to cry. No, Daniel. You loved the idea of me. Polished. Powerful. Always one step ahead. Until I was one step ahead. And suddenly, it wasn't sexy anymore. It was threatening. He slumped back onto the couch. Claire, please. We can fix this. We've been through worse. I'll end things with her. We'll go to counseling. You'll what? She interrupted, arms crossed. Erase the baby you tried to claim? Unsign the contract? Rewind the cameras I installed in the lake house? His eyes widened. Cameras? She nodded slowly. Hidden. 2 angles. One in the hallway. One in the guest room. High resolution. Audio, too. Daniel looked like he might be sick. And in case you're wondering, Claire added coolly. Yes. That footage has already been secured. And yes, my attorney has it. But, what about the prenup? Before the postnup, we agreed. The postnup overrides the prenup, she cut in. Signed later. Legally binding. Especially since I can prove deceit. You handed me the sword, Daniel. I'm just swinging it. He collapsed into his own silence. For once, Claire let it sit. No need to twist the knife. It was already buried to the hilt. Then she walked to the side table, opened the drawer, and pulled out another envelope. "This is the draft of the divorce petition," she said, laying it on the table beside the rest. "It'll be filed first thing tomorrow. You'll be served officially by Monday. And just so we're clear," she turned to face him, steady and composed, "you'll lose the house, the downtown condo, the summer property in Aspen. I'll retain control of the firm's equity, and you'll receive a buyout equal to your pre-marriage contribution, adjusted for inflation." Daniel's jaw clenched. "And the car?" he asked, bitter. Claire paused. "You can keep the Tesla. It suits you. Quiet, shiny, and entirely powered by someone else." She walked toward the staircase. "I'll be moving out by the end of the week. Don't worry. I'll leave the keys with your assistant." He stood up. "Claire." She turned back, one foot on the bottom step. "Yes?" "I didn't mean to hurt you." Claire looked at him, and for the first time that night, her mask slipped. Just a little. Just enough to reveal something behind her eyes. Not rage. Not heartbreak. Disappointment. "That's the problem, Daniel," she said quietly. "You didn't mean anything. Not the affair. Not the lie. Not even the apology. And that's what makes this so easy." She turned and walked up the stairs, leaving him in the living room, surrounded by legal papers, broken illusions, and the unmistakable sound of his legacy collapsing. 3 days later, Claire was packing the last of her files when the doorbell rang. She didn't flinch. She'd been expecting this. Daniel stood outside, dressed like he was going to war, in a tailored suit and coat, like a man still pretending he had something left to protect. His eyes were sunken, but his jaw was tight, holding on to whatever pride hadn't already slipped through his fingers. She opened the door. "We need to talk," he said, voice low. Claire stepped aside. "5 minutes," she said. "And then I have a flight to catch." Daniel walked in slowly, taking in the mostly empty foyer. The grand staircase where she used to greet him after work. The foyer where he'd once spun her around after landing their biggest client. All hollow now. All silent. He stopped in the center of the room and turned to face her. "I screwed up." Claire raised an eyebrow. "That's a generous understatement." Daniel sighed, running a hand through his hair. "I lost everything, Claire. The firm, the house, my name in the industry. Ashley vanished. She won't return my calls. People won't touch me now. My inbox is full of, 'We regret to inform you.' And the press—" "I saw," she interrupted. Indeed, she had. The headlines had exploded across every corporate blog and local tabloid. Top Chicago attorney caught in paternity scandal. Fortune at risk. She hadn't leaked anything, but she hadn't stopped it either. Daniel stepped closer. "I know I don't deserve forgiveness, but I need to say it out loud. I need you to know that I'm sorry. I was stupid. I let my ego ruin everything." Claire folded her arms. "And what exactly is it you want from me now?" Daniel hesitated. A chance to make it right. She actually laughed this time. Not cruel. Just stunned. "Make it right?" she echoed. "Daniel, this isn't a movie. There's no redemptive montage where you suddenly become the man I married." "I know," he said quickly. "But maybe we could talk again. In a few months. Once the dust settles. We built something, Claire. Not just a firm. A life." Claire looked at him long and hard, then walked past him and opened the door. "I didn't build my life with you," she said calmly. "I built it in spite of you. And you took credit. You let people believe you were the mastermind, the face, the force behind everything. You were never the engine, Daniel. You were just along for the ride." He swallowed hard. Claire gestured toward the open door. "You had 5 minutes. They're up." Daniel didn't move. Please, just tell me one thing. She waited. Was there ever a part of you that wanted to fight for us? Claire stepped forward, her voice low, but piercing. I fought for us every time I stayed quiet when you came home late. Every time I smiled through a dinner party while knowing you were somewhere else in your head. Every time I looked at myself in the mirror and asked if maybe I was the problem. Her eyes narrowed. But I'm done fighting ghosts. She stepped back, hand on the door. Daniel finally walked out. Slow, like a man walking away from the ashes of a house he burned down. She watched him go. No tears. No regret. Just the strange, clean feeling of clarity. An hour later, Claire wheeled her suitcase down the driveway where a black car waited to take her to the airport. As she slid into the back seat, her phone buzzed. Incoming call. Andrea Stein, Managing Partner, New York Division. She smiled faintly and answered. Yes, Andrea. I'm on my way. And yes, I reviewed the board offer. I'm in. Pause. Yes. Full relocation. New office, new team. No distractions. She ended the call just as the car pulled away. As they drove down the street, she passed the house one last time. The windows reflected the morning sun, but she didn't look back. Not once. Inside, Daniel stood alone behind the curtain, watching her leave. And that's when it hit him. This wasn't just a divorce. It was an execution. And Claire had walked away without leaving a trace of blood behind. New York didn't sleep, but neither did Claire. Her first night in the city was spent on the 43rd floor of a luxury building in Midtown Manhattan, her windows framing the glittering skyline like a living painting. She hadn't unpacked. She didn't need to. Her entire life now fit inside a black leather suitcase, a MacBook, and a folder labeled Future. She stood barefoot in the kitchen, sipping coffee at 4 a.m., watching the city blink. Not because she was restless, but because she felt more alive than she had in years. 2 weeks had passed since the divorce was finalized. The firm transfer had gone smoothly. Claire now held the title of Managing Partner for the East Coast Corporate Litigation Division, with her name headlining the quarterly newsletter and a feature coming in Forbes Women in Law. The board adored her. Her clients followed her. Her new office, glass walls, private terrace, was already nicknamed the Fortress. But it wasn't the job that made her feel powerful. It was the silence. Not the kind that used to fill her Chicago home after Daniel came back from God knows where. Not the kind between fake apologies and fabricated alibis. No. This silence was earned. Clean. Peaceful. Claire closed her eyes for a moment, letting the chill of the marble floor ground her. She remembered the way Daniel had looked that last day. Small. Hollow. Replaced. Not by another man, but by her own sense of worth. A vibration on the counter snapped her back. Her phone. A text. From a number she hadn't blocked, but only because indifference was a more brutal punishment than silence. Daniel saw the article. You look incredible. I miss you. Claire stared at the screen. Her thumb hovered over the reply field, then moved to delete. She didn't need closure. She was the closure. Later that day, she walked into her new office wearing a cream power suit and red stilettos. Hair pulled back. Diamond studs. No ring. No hesitation. Andrea Stein met her at the entrance, iPad in hand, eyes wide. Big week ahead, she said. The tech merger's heating up. Opposing counsel's tough. Claire smiled faintly. Good. I'm tired of easy fights. They walked together through the glass doors, heads turning as Claire passed. By noon, she'd rewritten a merger clause that had 3 junior partners in awe. By 2, she was leading a strategy meeting with clients flown in from London. By 6, she was on a rooftop bar with a martini and a view of the Empire State Building. And by 8, she was alone in her apartment again. No texts, no lies, no man trying to dim her brilliance. She sat by the window, opened her journal, and wrote 4 words, I don't need him. Then she underlined them, twice. Later that week, she was invited to speak at a Women in Business Summit. The moderator introduced her as a powerhouse in litigation, a leader in reform, and a personal inspiration. During the Q&A, a young associate in the audience raised her hand. "How do you stay so composed?" the girl asked. "Like, after everything? The press? The scandal? All of it." Claire tilted her head. The room was silent, waiting for a perfect answer. She smiled slowly. "I used to think power was about winning, about holding on to things, status, people, marriage," she said. "But power isn't holding on. Power is knowing when to let go, and not falling apart when you do." There was a beat of stunned silence, then a wave of applause. Afterward, as she stepped outside into the cool Manhattan air, Claire exhaled deeply and lifted her face to the sky. She wasn't healed. Not completely. But she was free. And that was better. The city lights shimmered above her as if nodding in approval. And for the first time in years, she smiled for no one but herself. Voiceover. Final line. "He thought I'd fall apart. But sometimes, losing everything someone else built for you is the first step to building something better."